Noel Nation, this is your time right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you being here, so you know the drill. You ultimately produce the show here at Florida State Seminoles Live. Leave those comments and questions. And of course, Miami Trash Talk, that's what that means, kind of i.e. Miami Trash Talk. They're in the live chat, and Jason will see those comments. Jason Parker, NBC6, of course,
Wait,
here to make it
wait,
all happen.
wait. I don't get to produce the show? The fans are producing the show?
You have the show producer title, but ultimately,
All right, I'll allow it. I'll allow it. And I will say, I'm going to pay you a compliment this week. I see you got the helmet game on point. You got us by LSU, our first big opponent of the season. I do like that. So good helmet placement this week. I do also want to know, where's Logan? I mean, Logan sits here and talks smacks about me, and then he's out watching a golf tournament involving Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen. I mean, where is your commitment, Logan? Where?
I'm disappointed. What can I say? Tom Brady, Jason, and I.
Who do you think wins that one? I like Mahomes and Allen, I think, in the match.
Yeah, I got to think that, well, we got Brady, Allen, Mahomes, and who's the fourth?
It's Brady and Rodgers against Mahomes and Allen.
Oh, you got the young blood against Brady and Rodgers. Okay.
New money against old school.
Yeah. I know that I saw Brady and Peyton Manning on one of their little documentaries play a round of golf, but I'm not too up on the golf. I got to think that they all can swing it pretty well.
It's either going to be god awful golf or great golf. So I'm going to go with great golf. So we'll see what happens.
And his quarterbacks are usually pretty good. Tony Romo and others. They like to golf.
That's why Charles Barkley was never a quarterback. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All they had to do was see his golf game and know that we don't want you playing quarterback at Auburn. All right, there is some Florida State football news to go over, and some two highly touted prospects here that are in the mix for Florida State football. Stacy Gage, a 5-star out of IMG, Jason.
Yeah, he's a running back position, 5-star guy. He is going to be one of the top recruits that every school is going after. He's already got offers from Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Alabama, all the big powerhouse programs. He took a visit to Tallahassee, took a visit to Florida State. One of the things he said, and as much as it goes against my principles to compliment a Gator grad, one of the reasons he said he's looking at Florida State is because of the addition of Keywan Ratliff, former Florida Gator defensive back, to the staff. So thank you, Keywan. I guess thank you for that. Thank you for seeing the error of your ways and going to Florida and coming to get that paycheck from FSU. But Stacy Gage is let's just be realistic. It's going to be a stretch to get this 5-star. I think Oklahoma right now is the lead program, in the lead dog position. But he is playing high school football in the state of Florida, and I think this is where this season, we've talked about it for the last 3 or 4 months. We're going to talk about it for the next 3 months. That's where this season is going to be important. Florida State needs to show that they are making that step up. They went from 3-6 in 2020 to 5-7 in 2021. So if they can make that step, you can prove to guys like Gage, like Chris Parsons, who we're going to talk about in a moment. This is where you need to prove to these guys that you are making that step up and that it's a good step to come to Florida State.
Yeah, so we're talking about the second-rated running back in the country, according to the composite. So we are talking about the kind of guy that's Florida State used to be in the running for on a regular basis.
And if you look at it, I mean, at the running back position, let's just be honest. I mean, Warwick Dunn, who's my favorite Seminole of all time, wasn't the top running back recruit in the country when he came in. Travis Minor wasn't the top rated running back. These were good recruits, but they weren't the top. I would argue probably Lorenzo Booker was probably our most highly rated, if you want to go by the rating position. So if Gage does decide to come to Tallahassee, if Florida State pulls off an upset and gets him to sign on the dotted line with us, that would be a huge momentum move for Mike Norvell and for the Florida State program.
Jason, I know that you
Yes.
appreciate the comments coming in, and I do as well. Now, this particular comment, can you find anything wrong with the comment on the screen? I know there's something not quite right there.
Let's see. Well, my name's right. Logan and James aren't here. They didn't show up on time. I guess
Mike didn't show up.
James's Wi-Fi went out. Well, you are. You're Mike Rogers, the voice of college football. I mean,
Okay.
It's a phenomenal. Whether you're
All right.
Mike or Mark, you're the voice.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the effort there, Till Dog. Appreciate that.
They got 2 of the letters right, so that's 50%. You know, let them have their
Yes.
moment.
All right. Again, Stacy Gage, Florida State fans, that would be a coup beyond what we've seen. You know, on the level of Travis Hunter, what that would have been.
But I think the difference is that, and I think there's a certain segment of the Florida State fan base that needs to let the Travis Hunter thing go. You know, Travis Hunter went to Jackson State for, you know, whether you want to believe he got the bag, whether you want to believe that he chose to go there on the principles of playing time, wanting the HBCU experience, whatever reasons. He made the decision. He's 18. He's entitled to make the decision. If he wants to transfer to another program after a couple of years, that's his decision. This is his football career. What we can do is wish him the best. I think it's a compliment, and I've already complimented the Florida Gator, a Florida Gator grad, so here we go. Since we're going to eat some more crow, I'm going to compliment Mike Norvell. To get somebody who's a 5-star to look at a Florida State program that has had 4 straight losing seasons, 2 of them under Mike Norvell, I think it's a positive step in seeing what Mike Norvell is doing. With that being said, that's why this year is going to be so important. That's why that LSU game is going to be important, that Louisville game. You have to start hot. You have to start the month of September hot because of what October and November have in store schedule-wise. If Florida State goes in the month of October 2-2 or worse, we are going to be having problems, and guys like Gage are not even going to look at Tallahassee.
Till Dog, we're good. We are good, Till Dog. Appreciate you being here. That's the important thing. You're here.
Absolutely.
All right. Chris Parson is a highly acclaimed quarterback that's looking at Florida State as well. Brentwood, Tennessee, 16th rated quarterback in the country, according to the 247 Sports Composite, top 300 player nationally, top 7 player in the state of Tennessee. He has reached the Elite 11. If you're not familiar, folks, that is the camp that all the aspiring quarterbacks aspire to in their development to reach that Elite 11 camp, and he has made the cut.
Yeah, and once again, giving Mike Norvell a compliment. We went from a time period under Willie Taggart where the quarterback position was not recruited at all to, you know, we did lose some recruits, let's just be honest about it, to a Mike Norvell who has said, I am going to get the best quarterback I can. I'll be damned if I just ignore the fact that I just recruited AJ Duffy out of IMG Academy. You know, I saw AJ Duffy in person when he schooled a back-to-back state champion last year from down here in American Heritage and made them look like just a bad high school team. That's how good AJ is. I don't think AJ should start the opener or start anytime soon this season, but I think he is going to be a promising quarterback. If you get Chris Parsons in there, you have Chris Parsons and AJ, I think having them go head-to-head against each other in practice will only make them better. And it goes back to the old days of Florida State when you had guys like Brad Johnson and Casey Weldon. Casey Weldon was a better college quarterback, I would argue, than Brad Johnson. Brad Johnson ended up going and winning the Super Bowl. Obviously, played on a Bucks team with a great defense, but you had a situation like that. You had, players like Dan Kendra who came in at the same time as you had a consistent time period where quarterbacks didn't play until their redshirt junior year. They didn't play early on. Charlie Ward only played 2 seasons. Danny Cannell, Thad Busby, Chris Weinke was the exception in playing 3 seasons. That's the way it used to go at Florida State. So I'm the guy who says recruit as many good quarterbacks as you can. The worst that happens is that one of them transfers and you still have one great quarterback in there.
In future weeks, folks, I am excited to launch this series because I want to hear the contributions of not just Jason, but hopefully we get Logan back at some point, and of course James coming in. We're going to be reviewing and re-ranking Florida State recruiting classes. We're going to go 2021, which is, of course, just a year in. So just, who's kind of jumped out as a freshman, showed us something. But as we go back in time, it'll get intriguing to see. Like we just did this on the Michigan show, and the names that were brought up that I had long since forgotten about, I'm going to experience the same thing here, where I enjoy these kind of conversations.
If we're going to say the worst, there's one name, and we'll talk about it in about 15 classes, but there's one name that I will argue is the worst recruit Florida State has ever brought in. The worst, the biggest bust.
Biggest bust, yes,
biggest
based
bust.
on expectation. Gotcha. Well, we have another interesting topic to survey here. So Jason and I are going to dig into this one. I think we're both going to have a good time on this one. And again, continue to send your comments and questions. We'll get to them. But we know that college football history, folks, has transitioned through various formats in determining a champion. Of course, we had the poll era starting in 1936 that lasted through 1997, the BCS system that was a combination vote and computers. And of course, now that we're in the playoff era. But Bobby Bowden most famously lifted this program out of the mire, the muck in the mid-'70s to elite status by going on the road and facing anybody and everybody. And had there been a playoff back in Florida State's heyday, we're going to take this look. Jason's used his knowledge and memory, but also got the rankings sized up for us for a period of time, as we've got Big Game James is on the line, going to join us for this one.
Big Game James finally got the Wi-Fi set up. There we go.
No, I got the iPad is the only way for me to do this. Like I gotta be stationary, and this is a new iPad. I'm actually stealing my son's iPad.
Good.
As a good father, as any godfather would, good father would.
Let him know heartache at the beginning. Let him know heartache at an early age.
Yes.
Before we get to the ranking system that we're talking about, let's bring James back into the party. Let's bring up one of our names we talked about, Stacy Gage, 5-star running back.
Yes.
Nice.
Your famous position at running back that you dominated at the fullback position for 4 years in Tallahassee. What are your thoughts? Obviously, he's a big name. He's right now has a big favorite. I think Oklahoma's in the lead. He's got Notre Dame, Alabama, all the big dogs right now. But he's taking visits to Tallahassee. He's taking multiple visits. So probably take an official visit. Should we be overly excited? Should we be cautiously optimistic? What should we be feeling right now as a Florida State fan base?
Cautiously optimistic. Stacy Gage is a really it takes a lot to get me my excitement peak. 5-star means nothing to me. Best athlete I've ever trained was a kid by the name of Derrick Henry, who was a 4-star, and he's a beast. So I actually think he might not be human. He's probably alien. I've never seen anybody do the things he's done. Stacy's not Derrick, but Stacy has more intuitive things that you can do as a running back. He's fluid. He's explosive. And when you watch his highlight film, he does some things that I think are important. He stretches the field. He does a lot of those things. You have to be able to do those things. Now, what I will say is what's weird has been the recruitment at the running back position at Florida State since Mike Norvell's been there. Going back to the history of when Florida State football started, when Bobby Bowden got it, if you look at every recruiting class, there's almost been a running back that goes to the NFL. And that's not just running backs and fullbacks. Billy Sexton, it's just when I was there. So in my recruiting class, Thomas Clayton, Leon Washington, Lorenzo Booker, myself, all got a chance to go to the NFL. B.J. Dean was in training camp with the Baltimore Ravens. Greg Jones was in there. Willie Reed was in there. Nick Maddox was in there. Anton Smith was in our running back room. That's in a period of 4 to 5 years. And that's going. And if you go back, you got Travis Minor. You got a ton of after that. Really probably could have been the greatest running back of all time had he not kept getting injured. Running back from out of Madison County. Is it Chris Thompson? Chris Thompson, amazing running back. It's wild that we've had that string of success of guys going to the NFL. And then when you look at Mike Norvell currently has a running back on every team in the NFC East. He's the only coach that can say that. And the fact that we haven't landed a top running back is just asinine. Outside of Lawrence Toafili, but Lawrence Toafili was, in theory, a commit under Willie Taggart. So, outside of that, we haven't had a name that FSU fans can just fall in love with and be like, man, we got that. But if they get Gage, that's an immediate guy that's coming in and taking reps as a freshman in 24.
Why is that? And I talked a little bit about this before. Warwick Dunn, my favorite Florida State player of all time, wasn't a 5-star, wasn't the top running back in the class. Like the names you mentioned, I would argue probably Lorenzo Booker was probably the highest rated running back recruit to come to Florida State. Why is that? Why has Florida State kind of never been able to get that top running back in the class? Is it just because the offensive structure? What do you think it is?
I think it's name brand recognition and the coolness factor. A guy who doesn't get enough credit as a coach, and I'll give him his flowers while he's alive, is my position coach and Billy Sexton. Billy Sexton could come in and tell you that I've been here for, I think when I came in, he was there for 14 years at that point. Mm-hmm. He was just, look, you want to play James, we're going to make you we're going to take you from linebacker and give you a chance to play fullback. You want to know how it works with fullback? You can't go to the league at fullback. William Floyd, Pooh Bear Williams, Dane Williams. You got he just went through Mary, but he just went through the names of these lists, and I'm like, well, god dang, maybe I can go to the NFL playing fullback. So we haven't done that, but we also haven't had. I think David Johnson was the last cat, and then even with Dalvin Cook, Tim Brewster was when Tim Brewster was hot and heavy in recruiting. We got to get Yak just hasn't been able to prove Yak yet, and I think a lot of that comes to with the rumors that Yak is really a wide receivers coach, posing as a running backs coach. But I think it's just a matter of feeling that you have competent coaching and a competent game plan. We also, you would think also off of the success of last year, we would have had more, but I can make excuses all day, but at the end of the day, it's just not getting done, and it should be.
So the winning and the recruiting obviously go hand in hand. So that's been a difficult situation over the past 4 to 5 years. So we also, James, do you have anything on this Chris Parson? He got selected for the Elite 11 quarterback camp. Have you seen anything with him?
Actually, not trying to make my relationship seem bigger than what it really is, but I texted him yesterday and told him congratulations on the Elite 11. I'm trying to get an interview with him. I like to talk to these guys just as an OG, as the term says, or as Unc now. Nobody says old head; they call you Uncle now. Just as the process is going, he's an extremely talented quarterback, an extremely talented prospect. I think what hurts recruiting too with Florida State, kind of to make it a two-prong answer, is we're so freaking jaded and shell-shocked from the recruiting process and people kind of shunning us that anything we just make more than what it was. And, Chris is looking at other schools. We're looking at other quarterbacks, which you should. Both parties should make sure they're sure before they jump the broom. And it's no different than Crownhawk. Crownhawk has announced all kinds of offers, and that's our 24 class quarterback committee at 24. And the funny story about that is Luke's such a good kid, and Chris is very similar too. Luke literally calls them every time he gets an offer and says, "Hey, is it okay if I post this?" And you know why it's okay to them? Because the more offers you get, the higher you get rated, the more prestige you get. And you know what that does for their recruiting class? It boosts the recruiting class. It makes more people want. Recruiting and dating are the same thing. Nobody wants somebody who everybody doesn't want. You know what happens if nobody wants you? You're ugly. And if you're ugly, that means anybody can get you. You're not.
I have a great personality.
Since you were married, somebody wanted you, and you're sexy. You've been working out, so
thanks,
you're getting that snapback body. But
I get my swag back.
That's the thing that FSU fans got to chill out. Like, if nobody wants our quarterback, it means our quarterback's not any good. And I know a lot of people who follow recruiting and are on the internet don't have a lot of luck in that aspect of their life too. But I'm just letting you know, if your girlfriend's fine, other guys gonna want your girlfriend. Like, you can't fight everybody now. It's part of her being fine. And ladies that listen to this show, if you got a guy who works out a lot, got a little bit of money, and he's handsome and he smells good, guess what's gonna happen? Other ladies gonna like what you like too. So, and the more you love on them, the more people gonna want them too, because you're gonna show all the good attributes.
Jason Osborne. First of all, great first name. Second of all, you are correct. I was wrong. Travis Minor was the top-rated recruit.
I thought you said Warwick Dunn.
No, Warwick Dunn was not, but Travis Minor was. So
okay.
I apologize. I don't want to defame the former Nolan, the former Dolphin. I apologize, Travis. You were right, Jason. I was wrong.
Life lessons coming in from Big Game James. So we appreciate him being here for more than just football. So remember that.
He's here stealing from his child, and he's telling you how to smell good. That's why we bring you, James.
Smell good is a big thing. A lot of people don't realize, man. Watch your soaps and your cologne, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Pretty face, but bad breath, that's a turnoff. Big time.
Terribleness.
Yes. Can't have that. So check yourself before you leave the house, everybody.
All right, we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
All right, talking FSU football. And now, James, we're going to dive into the past. So, again, everybody, leave those comments and questions. I'm monitoring, but Jason's done his homework. Not that he had to do too much, because he's pretty much got this locked up in his head concerning Florida State's past, starting with the Dynasty era. So we've locked in on 1987 being that stretch drive, that beginning of the top 4 finishes. Sorry, Florida State fans, top 4 finishes, of course, for 15 consecutive years. But what that would have looked like in terms of applying those seasons to a playoff.
Right, because so for the last 8 seasons, we've obviously gone through the playoff system. Florida State's been in one time out of that group, in the inaugural one in 2014. But for the 27 seasons before that, both the Dynasty era, the second Dynasty era when James Coleman was in the backfield, and then that one season in 2013 when we dominated and won national title. So out of those 27 seasons, how many seasons did Florida State enter the bowl season in the top 4? 10 of them. There were 10 times where Florida State would have been in the playoff system. And James and I, we talked about it a little earlier, you would have expected more, but only 9 of those were during the Dynasty era from 1987 to 2000. So let's dive into those real quick. So in 1987, Florida State would have been the 3 seed. They would have played the number 2 seed, Miami, who beat us 26-25 in the regular season. Meanwhile, the number 1 team was Oklahoma. They would have played the number 4 team, Syracuse. Everyone's favorite team, the Syracuse, formerly Orangemen at that time.
Who I believe tied Auburn in the Orange Bowl that year. Syracuse, yeah,
No.
Don McPherson.
No, Miami played Oklahoma. Miami beat Oklahoma for the national title in the Orange Bowl that year.
No. You weren't listening to me. I said Syracuse tied Auburn in the Sugar Bowl that year.
You said Orange Bowl.
Completely different. Okay.
You said Orange. It's fine. Moving on. All right. So
it was Syracuse Auburn though. Okay, go ahead. 1988.
So Syracuse, Oklahoma, Florida State, Miami that season. So then the next season, 1988, would have been 1. Florida State would have been the number 4 seed. They would have played the number 1 team and eventual national champions, Notre Dame. Meanwhile, number 2 would have also been Miami, and they would have played the number 3, West Virginia. Obviously, West Virginia played Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl that year. Florida State beat Auburn in the Sugar Bowl, and nobody cares about Miami. So,
okay, 1988.
So 88.
All right.
Then in 89, 90, and 91, we would have made it. 89, we entered the bowl season 5th. 90, we entered at 6th. 91, we entered 5th after 2 straight losses to Miami and Florida to end the regular season.
One caveat before you continue, Jason, of course, one caveat would be we don't know what a committee would be doing and looking at. We're just looking at AP voters.
Right. Just going by rankings. Correct.
Yep.
All right. So in 92, we would have been back in it. 92, we would have been the 3 seed taking on Alabama with their ferocious defense that ended up helping them win a national title. Meanwhile, number 1 entering would have been Miami taking on number 4 Texas A&M, the Fighting R.C. Slocums of back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. 93, obviously we won the national title that season, so we would have entered number 1. Florida State entered number 1. They would have taken on number 4 seed Notre Dame, who Notre Dame beat Florida State in the regular season that year. Number 2, Nebraska would have taken on number 3, West Virginia. Obviously, Nebraska, we beat in the Orange Bowl. West Virginia got dog stomped by Florida in the Sugar Bowl. So I think Florida State would have convincingly won that one. Obviously, we lost Notre Dame in the regular season, but I think we would have won a rematch there. 94, we were 7th entering the bowl season. 95, this one was interesting to me. We entered the bowl season 8th. We entered the bowl season 8th. We ended up beating Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl that year and jumped up to finish the season 5th to continue that top 5 streak. So that one's interesting. Then we went for 5 straight years, we would have been the playoff. In 96, we would have been the number 1 team. We would have taken on Ohio State, who was the number 4. Meanwhile, number 2, Arizona State, would have taken on number 3, Florida. And that's why I always will say I hate Ohio State more than Miami, because Ohio State is the reason that Florida has 2 of their national titles. If Ohio State doesn't beat Arizona State in the Rose Bowl, Arizona State wins the national title and Florida doesn't. So thanks a lot to your Buckeyes for that one there, Mark. Sure,
Hey,
Buckeyes.
that could have been corrected by the voters actually voting for Ohio State to win the national championship.
It also been
Because they all had one loss.
It also could have been corrected by us actually playing in the second half and not playing like ass. So that also could have been corrected there on that
Yes.
one. 97, Michigan. Your favorite Michigan Wolverines, Mark, would have been number 1, taking on number 4, Florida State. Meanwhile, number 2, Nebraska, would have taken on number 3, Tennessee. Obviously, those 2 teams played in the Orange Bowl that season. In 98, Florida State would have been the 2 seed, once again taking on Ohio State, while number 1, Tennessee, took on Kansas State. In 99,
that was Mike Bishop, Kansas State team, right?
Oh, yeah.
Real good quarterback.
They lost to Drew Brees in a bowl game.
In the Alamo Bowl, I believe.
Yes, they did.
I'm correct. There you go. In 99, Florida State would come in number 1. Would have taken on
Wire to wire.
Yep. Would have taken on number 4, Wisconsin, while number 2, Virginia Tech, with Michael Vick, would have taken on number 3, Nebraska.
That would be exciting to watch.
That would have been a good one right there.
That would have actually been probably one of the best playoffs. Like I just thinking of the players in those games. Yeah.
I will still say Michael Vick's performance in that Sugar Bowl was the best I've seen from an opposing quarterback in a game I've been to. The fact that he single-handedly is the reason Virginia Tech was even in that ball game. Michael Vick will always go down to me as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
I am loving listening to all these matchups and
Oh,
envisioning and thinking about, what actually happened versus what I think would have happened. Yeah.
It's like the playoffs are almost too little too late now.
Right.
It just seemed like it was way more parity
Yes.
back then. It was just so much more exciting.
Oh, yeah. Now, 2000's one we've talked about before, because I have said that entering that bowl season, Miami and Florida State were the 2 best teams. I understand why Oklahoma was number 1. They were undefeated. They deserved to be number 1. But that being said, the 2 best teams at that time, I believe, were Miami and Florida State. Oklahoma at number 1 would have played Washington at number 4. Meanwhile, Miami and Florida State, in an epic rematch of what was Wide Right 3 that year, would have played in the 2-3 game. I sincerely believe that, I sincerely believe that if Marvin Minis plays in that Orange Bowl, Florida State beats Oklahoma. I will stand by that until the day I die. I think Florida State at that time, that Florida State-Miami game, I've always said that Florida State-Miami 2000 game was the greatest college football game of all time. It had the most players ever drafted into the NFL if you combine both teams' rosters from that game. Miami jumps up to a big lead. Florida State comes back. It ends in a dramatic finish. I will always argue that. If they play again in a bowl, in a playoff system, I think that's phenomenal.
So wait a minute. I'm just making sure I hear this right. The Oklahoma team that shut out Florida State, I know they scored 2 points, but their offense didn't score a point.
Right.
If they would have played, Florida State would have won? Well, they did play.
If Marvin Minis had played that
game.
Marvin Minis.
Right.
I got you. Snoop Minis didn't play.
Right.
I forgot that. Okay. I got you.
Shows up there.
Okay.
And remember, Oklahoma, how did Oklahoma get their touchdown?
Oh, it was a pick 6, right?
It was either pick 6 or fumble. I believe it was a defensive touchdown or it was a defense that set up.
Well, they were nothing but defense. Yeah, right, Rocky Kalmus and that crew.
Roy Williams was on that team.
Roy Williams. Yes.
Great defense, phenomenal defense. But I think at that point, the 2 teams that were playing the best on both sides of the ball were Miami and Florida State.
So before you continue, my stance on those situations, just like Alabama fans pouring in with all their comments about last season, losing Jamison Williams in the championship game and John Mechie in the playoffs, say we would have won the championship had we had those guys. I think they have every right to say that that's their opinion, but they can't say there's no doubt we would have won, because Georgia, fair and square, injuries are part of the game, won the national championship fair and square. They've got the award, they've got it. But I have no issue with the fan base making a reasonable assumption to say, I believe this would have happened had this
The
been in
only
place.
argument I have against the Alabama fans with that is that the way that Georgia beat them had nothing to do with finesse, had everything to do with straight brawn. I've seen 5 wides, but I've never seen 4 tight ends in a game before. They literally lined up, played old school football, and just punched you in the mouth. And that's how they beat you. And then their defense stepped to the occasion and stopped you. Now, granted, it's not taking away. Those wide receivers in Alabama were amazing. I'm just thinking about how Alabama's defense, for the first time in a while, looked like a group of 5 defense. And like it's a Georgia. And it was just crazy. It was just how much more physical Georgia was than Alabama in the trenches. That would be my only retort.
I got you. The reason I make that allowance is those backup wide receivers really let Bryce Young down. They had some big drops in that game, like huge. So the play or two just prior to Bryce Young, and yes, we'll get back to Florida State, everybody, prior to Bryce Young throwing the pick 6 that lost the game. So, understand, Bama had a lead until like 4 minutes left in the game. They come down the field after Stetson Bennett leads the touchdown drive to take the lead. Bryce Young's throwing darts. He throws one right in, I think, Ja'Cory Brooks' breadbasket, which would have put them back up. He drops it. Next play, he throws the pick 6. Like they dropped some big balls in that game, guys that would not have been targeted otherwise. So that's why I'm one concession to Alabama fans who gripe and complain and moan. But fair and square, Georgia won. Okay, back to FSU.
So then after a 12-season hiatus that included during James's time there us being ranked 16th, 9th, 17th, and 22nd entering the bowl games, which for those people who love to talk about the letdown decade, it was a letdown half decade because Florida State entered the bowl season ranked in 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, and 2005. So let's call it the lost half decade, not that lost decade. So then it goes until 2013 when Florida State enters as the number 1 team in the country after dominating through the regular season. They would have taken on Michigan State, who would come in as the 4 seed. Meanwhile, the 2-3 would have been an Iron Bowl rematch, Auburn and Alabama. Which had surprised me a little bit that Alabama, I mean, I get it, but Alabama had dropped just from 1 to 3. I understand that, but with that being said, I feel like that would have set up for an Alabama getting their payback over Auburn.
Well, I absolutely believe Alabama was the better team. Auburn had all sorts of things working for them that year. The Georgia win, balls getting deflected off guys' chests for touchdowns. And, of course, they made it happen. So all credit to Auburn. And they took Florida State to, the last 13 seconds of the game. So, they came that close to winning a national championship. So it's not like they didn't have a great team with talent. But, to see Florida State and Alabama in that game at the Rose Bowl, that would have been pretty epic.
That would have been good.
So if you look at these 10, so we're saying 10 times in the playoff, 3 of them were times we had won the national title. I don't think we're arguing that in a playoff system that any team would have beaten Florida State in either 93, 99, or 2013. I think Florida State wins the title those seasons. But which one of those seasons, start with Mark, do you think Florida State would have had the best shot at being a national champion?
Oh, man, I would love to see all that in writing in front of me. I think there were all sorts of years where Florida State had a really good shot. Oh, my goodness. To see Florida State-Miami rematch in some of those late 80s, early 90s situations, that's not helping me. I appreciate the effort, but I can't give you one specific year where Florida State, I just think that, we really missed out as college football fans because we needed to see those teams on the field against each other.
For the record, I still think the playoffs a joke. I think the playoff system is a joke. I think it's
an invitational.
It's an invitational tournament by your former employer. That's all it is right there. So,
I think if the BCS was just around, I think there's a lot of other factors that come into play with that list, and even now it hindered us a little bit more when I played because your strength of schedule came into play. And the year that we had the best chance when I played was my sophomore year, and we don't choke against Clemson. We're we're playing. Wait a minute, no, excuse me, my bad. We don't choke against. No, it was Clemson. Yeah, we
It was
choked against
Clemson.
Clemson that year, and we played in the national championship. It's as simple as that. And then my junior year, we don't choke against Maryland. That Florida game means a little bit more. And then we probably play in the national championship as well. But strength of schedule, when you look at what Florida State was going up against in those 80 in that 80 run before we went to the ACC, people forget we joined the ACC because they were only giving national championship nods to people who were in a conference, and it just wasn't right. I think one year we basically played an SEC schedule. If I remember correctly, because it was a retort when people said that Bobby was afraid of the SEC. When like one year we played LSU, Florida, Auburn, and South Carolina, or something like that.
1990.
So like, and you know how many of those teams we beat? All of them. So we technically won the SEC that year, or we should have played in the SEC championship as well. So there's no fear, and Bobby having that road warrior mentality is kind of what should have given us a stronger strength of schedule, which should have weighed more. But it's also probably what kept us out because the schedule was so damn tough. Imagine how many national championships Bobby is in if he takes Miami out and plays a directional sport. And during those times, Miami and Florida, like we found when Florida resurged, because a lot of Florida fans like to talk a lot of trash, but your program wasn't really relevant until Steve Spurrier came in. That's when you became relevant. So, but the 90s, Bobby played peak Miami and peak Florida with only one team having a slight downturn for a couple of years when Miami was on the probe, but they bounced back relatively quickly. So it's just interesting. It's amazing at how quick or how quickly we became a blue blood without really having any history. And just people just a generation was so used to us winning that now that we're having a downturn, it just seems foreign, which I think is a compliment to how good the old man was.
Looking at the list in front of me right now, we've had the discussion about 2000 with Oklahoma. Obviously, there was a 3-year stretch in 98, 99, 2000 when we played in the national title game. I think 98, Tennessee, you're talking about T. Barton, Peerless Price. I think that Tennessee team was just a stacked ball club and just outplayed us in the field.
And we played with Rooster.
Right.
So we didn't have Chris Lee.
That was a stacked ball club. 2000, I think Oklahoma's defense was phenomenal. The one that always bothers me, and this is why I will always say that I love Fred Taylor as a person. If you had to say who's your favorite person who played for a rival school, he would be my favorite person who played for the Florida Gators. But that 97 Florida State team going into Gainesville was we were just going to take care of Florida State. We were going to take care of Florida, go to the Orange Bowl, beat up on Nebraska, probably win the national title, or at least split it with Michigan, who was out playing Washington State in the Rose Bowl. But you'll look at it right there. If you're saying Florida State would have played a Michigan team, that yes, I know they had Charles Woodson. Yes, I know they had guys. I think as a team versus team, I think Florida State's 97 team was better than Michigan's 97 team. And I think Florida State's 97 team was better than both Nebraska and Tennessee. So I think that year would have probably been Florida State's best championship team had there been a playoff system.
That would have been a ridiculous playoff.
No.
That'd have been a great playoff.
Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson, Nebraska led by Scott Frost, our team, Sam Coward at linebacker, shout out to Jacksonville, talking about Travis Minor, Thad Busby at quarterback, Peter Warrick playing well as I believe it was a sophomore at that time, E.G. Green, Andre Cooper. Like that was a stacked group right there. Andre Wadsworth on the defensive line. Arguably the worst draft pick we've ever had.
Highest draft pick until Jameis too. And he was a walk-on.
Yeah, he lived up to those potentials. I know injuries, I get it.
Now the funniest thing is pro day my sophomore year, the scout who gave the report for Andre Wadsworth was looking at Greg Jones. He said, "I'll never turn in the first round grade for a Florida State guy." I'm shocked I still have my job. It was funny, man.
That was a bad one.
No, all of those, aside from a sprinkling of West Virginia, no offense, Mountaineer fans, that I don't think that they were quite up to the task. To Jason's point, they got drubbed by Florida, I believe 41-6 in the Sugar Bowl that year. You're talking, all of those are a lot of Nebraskas and Miamis and Ohio States. And yeah, they would have been epic.
Literally, West Virginia's in here twice. Syracuse is in here once. Virginia Tech once for their 99 season. Arizona State, Kansas State. So maybe like 5 or 6 teams that aren't a big, traditional powerhouse program.
Yeah. And not that those individual teams could not have competed those years. I'm not saying that. It's possible, certainly. They were really good.
Also looking, Miami's in here 3 times, and Florida's only in here once. This should be 4 times for Miami, only once for Florida. So
interesting stuff. James, in future weeks, we're going to review recruiting classes from the past. We're going to bring up old names and see if they pulled through or they busted.
You won't hear me say anybody busted. I got to see these guys. Unless they transfer it out. If they transfer it out, then I don't have to see.
We're going to see how James, because James knows the name that I'm going to say when we start talking about one specific class, and we'll stay tuned. What's that?
The 04?
I believe 04 or 05. We'll save it. We'll save it because I want to get your reaction when I say the name. Not today, but in future weeks, I want to get your reaction.
There's one guy that I do know very well was a phenomenally gifted athlete. 01, 5-star offensive tackle out of Ed White High School here in Jacksonville. Ronnie Big Luck Lumford.
Oh, Luck.
And the only reason I say it was a bust because he was a 5-star and he never really made impact. But man, when I tell you he was so talented, like it's just a good show would be to talk about guys who are considered bust or didn't live up to their potential, and what era would they have been down? Because Lucky was the size of all linemen, but during that time we called him. He had a nickname, Big Circle, because he was 360 pounds. That was considered fat, but he wasn't fat. He had one ab, I would call it, but it was hard. Everything else was jacked up. But now you see guys that are 360, 340, 380 walk around like it's nothing. Even defensive ends, like when I played against Mario Williams was I want to say 6'6", 290 pounds. You didn't see that. Now you got guys like Khalil Mack or Myles Garrett who walk around like even Sean Merriman was 275. I didn't see anybody like that until I played him. But now you got guys 275. You might be like, if you're not 260, you're too small to play defensive end. But 240 was the way we kept our defensive ends at Florida State during or a lot of guys during my era. So it's just interesting. Some of the guys who didn't pan out, but more so because the game was so traditional and there was no innovation. But now innovation, like where would these guys be?
Shout out to Khalil Young. Thank you for your contribution. We appreciate you giving us that $9.99.
Jason, are you going to respond to the best uniforms in college football?
I mean, I would argue if we're going – I mean, yes, my argument is obviously going to be Florida State number 1. Out of that group, I mean, I'm old school. I know you don't want to hear it, but I'd probably put it – if we're going to say amongst those 5, I'd probably put it FSU. I'm old school, so I got to say Michigan. Probably then USC, Ohio State. I would probably take out Virginia Tech, and I got to put Texas. I always want Florida State to play Texas. I want us to play Texas in a game that burnt orange. There's something about it.
We haven't seen that game.
That they've never played. Florida State and Texas have never played in a football game.
Yeah.
If Mac Brown would have offered me in high school, I would have went off the uniform alone.
Oh,
Like
Texas.
I really like. I knew nothing about the state. I just like the uniform. So but like I would go FSU Ohio State because I like the pin, not the pendant, the sticker that they get for big plays. I'm a big play guy. I like the tomahawks. I like the little tree that the Buckeyes have. Um, I like USC's. It's just more iconic to me. I like them, and then I would go Michigan. And I'm with you on the Texas and Tennessee. I remember Tennessee is a place that I went on an unofficial visit to, and man, I learned Rocky Top in like 2 minutes. Like I had never seen that many people in one place before. It was packed. I forgot who they played, but it was rocking. It was rocking.
Khalil, we will do most underrated guys too. We'll do overrated, underrated. Obviously, one of the viewers mentioned Xavier Lee. I think Xavier Lee wasn't that bad. I don't think he lived up to expectations, but I wouldn't call him a complete bust.
One of the most talented players I've ever seen.
Yeah. Also, shout out to Ron Lunford. You mentioned a name. I had several sports management classes with him. Great guy. Nice guy.
Yeah.
Him and Leon.
Yep. And Leon was an athlete. You mentioned Lorenzo was the highest rated running back to come in. He was a 5-star, number one running. I think he might have been the number one player in the nation if he wasn't the number one running back at least. And then Thomas Hollywood Clayton, well, we called him Jerry Curry. He called himself Hollywood. He was a 4-star, and I think he got drafted by the San Francisco 49ers. Ended up transferring to Kansas State. And Leon was a 5-star athlete that everybody actually thought was going to play cornerback, but ended up playing running back. And so talented. I've never he was just so good, man. And Lorenzo was too, but I could talk about those guys all day, man, and what they can do. Like that might be a show in itself. Like with me and you just talk about the running back seg that I played with and just tell stories because
Nice.
Like Greg Jones made me a better fullback. Like after he hit the dude from North Carolina and sent him into orbit, I heard DJ Williams told the story on I Am Athlete, and I'm glad somebody told the truth because I knew the truth whether people said it or not. After that hit, I started grading out like 100% in games. And it wasn't because I was a really good fullback, but I was just smart. I was 19 years old, barely knew what I was doing. Those linebackers purposely engaged me. It took the block so that they didn't have to take the tackle when Greg was with full speed. That's the reason why. Like it was like I promise you, if you get John Bilmo on his deathbed, because if he missed it right now, because the ghost of Sean Taylor would get him and Sean Taylor's family. But if you go and you look at the Orange Bowl, where I did a phenomenal ISO block on John Bilmo, and Greg runs a beeline straight, and it was just him and Sean Taylor, and he basically put Sean Taylor in the dirt. I would cuss a running back out if he did this because literally all Greg had to do was make a move and he's in the end zone because it was just him and Sean. And Sean was flat-footed, like I think I saw him do this. Like he knew he was dead. But if Vilma told the truth, Vilma didn't even try to spill this, didn't even try to take me on. It was way too easy for me to block him on that play. And then I would have been like, nah, I'm just that good. Even as a grown-ass man now, I know what you did, John Vilma. You was afraid to get ran over by G. Because I was afraid to get ran over by G. If I didn't move you out the hole, G was running me and you over. So if it's got to be you or me, it's going to be you before it's going to be me. And Vilma took that block. Thank you. You made me look better. And, Sean Taylor, phenomenal competitor, great, one of the best athletes I've ever played against. But man, your boy messed you up, bro. Your boy sold you out for self-preservation.
Hey, sometimes you gotta live. They both talked about that. I believe there was during the pandemic when ESPN showed classic games and they showed the 2002 Miami.
Maybe that's what it was.
They were both Vilma and DJ Williams were praising Greg Jones, and I mean, yeah, I would say Greg Jones is probably one of the better recruits we've had in a while. Maybe not in numbers wise, but from what he did.
I think he was a 4-star linebacker that converted to running back. So
and was it the Clemson game in 2002 on the Thursday night game?
Clemson, when he ran over the entire defense, oh my God, it was crazy. Like twice. And some of those guys, it looked like NFL Street.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you see them just and they ball over people, it was incredible. It was impressive, man. This 2002 Miami game when he ran for 200 and a half.
Wow.
I don't know what the hell Jeff Bowden was thinking. Like that's again my bad. I hate to harp on it. I love Jeff. Jeff is a dope person. Was just a bad offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
That's when people say, James, you were so hard on these guys. Y'all were so hard on us, and I had Jeff Bowden as offensive coordinator. Like you got to make plays, man. But that's what Greg Jones was that good, that determined to get his family out of Beaufort, South Carolina. That the play was probably a terrible play. I think it was 56, 57, because I think he went to the left off tackle. It was probably a terrible play call. But he just ran over everybody because he had no choice. And that's just once we forget, I'm not the guy that says, I don't want 3 stars with heart. Like, I was a no star, but I became good because I was surrounded by 5 stars. I ain't even going to hold you. But yes, you need guys with heart, but you need guys that don't just tweet about taking their mama out the hood or getting their mama a crib. We need guys that actually live it. We need guys with a couple bullet wounds, maybe some babies, maybe some better priorities, so that they go out here and smack people in the mouth. Because we was playing, like when I'm telling you, like before NIL, when I tell you I paid grown ass bills for my little $850 scholarship check. I had a kid and I had a mama that needed help. I had to go to the league. I had to get money. I had to do something to change my situation. And I think people talk about that, but they don't embody it. And when I tell you, man, we used to tell stories like Travis Johnson telling his story, where he came from, Leon telling his story, BJ Dean telling his story. It was just cats that would literally, if I got to run through your face so that I can eat, I'm like I just said, if it's got to be you or me, I promise you it's gonna be me. I ain't finna die. And I'm not finna go back. You're not sending me back to South City. You're not sending me back to the south side of Tallahassee without a victory, without something, or you're gonna have to kill me on this field. And I think once we get guys really embodying that, it becomes contagious.
This must be what it's like to be a Miami fan, talking about living in the past. This must be what it's like with Cam Underwood on your next show, isn't it?
Except for Cam.
I can't comment to that.
I know, but
Cam only competed in table tennis.
Tell Cam we said what's up. Tell him we'll see him.
I like that. Cam,
We've got a series going here where we're bringing on media from the opponent's schedule. So we did the LSU thing. We got Wake coming up. We got Miami, of course. So, and we need a spot to be filled, Jason, on our Miami show.
Oh.
Right?
Rant. Was parental discretion advised or not?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hey, I'll take off all guidelines for 1 hour.
Then we got it.
Okay. All right. Jason, you're amazing. Thanks for being here. As always, James, appreciate you making it. And I know you got so much going. James, let us know where people can find you.
At Big Game, you got Big Game. That guy is in jail, in Twitter jail. At Big Game James 36. He's a terrible person. I don't know what he did.
I took that from our DM.
Oh, it's _36.
Oh, my bad.
Big Game James _36 is a phenomenal person. At Big Game James 36 committed a sin, and everybody's talking about how Elon Musk is all about free speech. If he's about free speech, free my dog at Big Game James 36 with his 10,000 followers and institute that. But _36, you'll see all the different things I got. Right now, what I was late, I was doing some NIL deals for Florida A&M for a couple of their players. Kind of getting heavy in the NIL space. We got Micanopy 1851. Micanopy 1851. I do podcasts. I talk a lot of trash. I own Fifth Quarter. And I'm a dad. So if you follow me, it's going to be a lot of good information. It's also going to be a lot of randomness, but if you can sort through all of it, it's pretty entertaining in my opinion. So,
I will tell you, James, that when I check out your tweets, it makes me do maybe one of three things. I'm either like in thought thinking, yeah, that's really smart, man. That's gives me a different perspective there. Or it makes me laugh. Or I'm like,
oh my
what
God,
the hell is he talking about? I have no idea what that even means.
I feel like it's more.
It's one of the three.
Yeah, it's definitely that. Nobody knows what it means, but it's provocative. It gets the people going. That's the biggest thing.
Stop.
But the biggest thing though that I do want to say, I want to push. We're getting back into this will be and this time I'm gonna try not to die. But we're doing my 3rd annual book bag drive, and we got a big goal. We're gonna try to do 2,500 book bags this year. So we went from we did 600 my first year. The goal was 1,000. We got 1,250 last year. This year we want to go 2,500. I got to raise $70,000 by the end of July. We're gonna do it. We're gonna get 2,500 book bags some way, shape, or form. Anybody who wants to donate to that, just make sure you look at Big Game James _36. I believe we're probably the only nonprofit where like 95% of all funds raised go toward the task at hand. This is not how I make my money. This is basically one of my passion projects. I love giving back to the community. And we need 3 things you can always give: time, talent, and treasure. We shut down the neighborhood I grew up in, and no police needed, no nothing. It's great giving back. People get a week's worth of groceries. They get a book bag that's fully stuffed with 9 weeks of school supplies. And then we also adopt Bond Elementary School, and we'll adopt the elementary school on the east side of Jacksonville, where we'll have basically a supply sanctuary where we basically fully stock this, so when kids run out of supplies, they can just go pick up some paper, pick up a pencil on the way to class. They don't have to be embarrassed. All the bad decisions I've ever made in my life were based upon my stomach. Basically, I was hungry, or I didn't have proper supplies. And that's what I'm trying to help, in my little way, eradicate some of that so we can see some young scholars. And I'm not one of them "what about Chicago" guys. I'm going to be the guy who goes in the neighborhoods and actually tries to fix the shit. Because I think if more people did that, America would be great again.
And so your DM's open, so anybody can just hit you up on your DM.
Just don't hit me up with BS, because I will expose you and I will talk trash. But if you want to ask me questions and you want to talk about it, I'm nowhere near as bad of a guy as people think. I'm pretty approachable.
Now I want to hit him with some BS. I want to see the exposure. I want to see how this goes.
All right, folks. There it is. At Big Game James _36. DM him. Get involved in a tremendous cause that he's been working for quite a long time here. Jason, appreciate you. We'll be back Wednesday at 6 Eastern. Get on back, but bring some friends with you, some Florida State folks. Let's get back here next Wednesday. We'll see you then.